Today, cryptid, smash or pass. Yes, our Halloween video this year is gonna be a cryptid smash or pass, as well as probably talking about the cryptids for too long because I fucking love cryptids and I think this shit is so fun. Now, for some maybe not so obvious ground rules, I'm not going to be including anything mythology, so that would be things like the Cyclops. That's technically from Greek mythology, it's not going to be included. If one of them sneaks in here, I'm sorry, but Wikipedia has listed it as a cryptid, which is my fault for not doing enough research to realize it wasn't. Because, number 2, we are also not going to be including any of the fearsome critters. Fearsome critters are not technically cryptids. Cryptids have to have specific sightings for a long number of time, whereas the fearsome critters are specifically American-made, specifically by lumberjacks, and there usually actually isn't sightings of those. For example, I really wanted to put the jackalope on this list, but that is technically a fearsome critter and not a cryptid. So the goal here is to only do cryptids. First one, Mothman. Mothman. Of course Mothman's gonna be on the list. He is a gay icon, as we all know. Some things about Mothman. He is an American tale, specifically coming from West Virginia. He is one of the more recent cryptids. He has his own statue and everything. He's typically seen as like an omen. Specifically before a disaster happens, somebody's gonna see Mothman. This fuzzy guy with the glowing red eyes. The glowing red eyes and buzzing noises is kind of the main thing that people say about Mothman, as well as these big giant wings. There's a lot of skepticism, and some people think that Mothman can easily be explained by saying reflective lights on bicycles for the eyes, as well as TV noises for the buzzing. I don't fully understand that one. And it is thought that these big wings are more like a giant owl. Mothman has gained a lot of popularity in the recent years, I think because he's one of the least violent cryptids. Again, just kind of like an omen for bad things to come. He's also cute as hell. He's absolutely adorable. I love him so much. Mothman, I think he's cute, adorable. I think he's incredibly huggable and lovable. Absolute smash. Up next, we've got the Bunyip. This absolutely terrifying creature. The Bunyip legend is from Australia. It is said to be an evil spirit that lives in like swamps or watering holes, basically anything with water where it can jump out and grab you. In fact, it is considered to be amphibious, even though there has never technically been a sighting on land. Now, there are two very different descriptions of the Bunyip. Typically, people talk about this one. Basically, a seal creature with large teeth that eats people. However, there is a different description that about 20% of sightings claim it looks like. This horrific being is what some people consider to be the Bunyip. Now, there is a stark difference between the two. Again, this is kind of showing off the amphibious nature, being able to walk on land, whereas the seal creature that we saw previously, 80% of sightings claim it to be that. And I'd say for that back one, probably a smash. For this one, probably a pass. This one's a little bit just too alien for me. Up next, we have this absolute cutie. I love him so much. This is a Ningen. I think a more correct pronunciation is Ningen. This is a Japanese cryptid, so my accent is not going to be great. Again, this is a Japanese origin cryptid, even though it's about Antarctica, or more specifically the water around Antarctica. Again, this has two very distinct looks that a lot of people have decided that this is. We have number 1, this very cute guy. This little guy with a human-ish kind of looking face and very long or big limbs. And then our second type is this guy, much more whale-like with arms. He's also cute though, I do also like him. Don't like his smile too much though. But basically, they're very, very different. This one obviously walks on land more, whereas this one is more considered to be like a nautical or sub-Antarctic, I've seen, kind of cryptid creature. This is a really new cryptid. I found some conflicting articles about whether it was in 2002 or 2007 where the first mention of this online was. Again, it was a Japanese person posting it online, specifically about an Antarctic trip, like a research voyage of Antarctica where this was considered to be seen. Some people say there's some Google Earth pictures of it. Some people say that the Google Earth pictures are just an iceberg that looks a lot like a person. This is highly contested. Between this being a very recent cryptid and the fact that it originates from strictly online, I think is the reason that it's highly contested. It's very much like how people consider creepypastas to not be very good stories, even though some of them are, just because they're recent and from the internet. This guy, smash all the way. He's so cute, he's so lovable, I love him to death. This guy, harder sell for sure, probably a pass. I was definitely considering it, but this one, no, not for me. The Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat was an interesting one to research. This one has an American origin. There are so many stories that describe it differently and so many different depictions of it. For example, some people kind of use it as like a joke more than anything. Some people say it is in fact a very scary creature that will get you. Some people say this was a woman that was then turned into a cat. There's a lot of different legends surrounding this one. Pretty much the Wampus Cat is just any cat that has 6 legs instead of 4, usually something big like this, like a mountain lion or a panther or something like that. However, this is not the only description of the Wampus Cat. Again, some things make it a lot scarier. Some things are just kind of like this, very kind of tamed down. I didn't even notice the extra legs at first. This is gonna be a pass for me. It's kind of boring. It's not my favorite, and there wasn't a lot of information online because there's so much conflicting information that this is now just kind of like, there's no deep lore to it because there's no specific lore to it, if that makes any sense. This is sometimes confused with the underwater panther, which is not the same thing. That is a different type of folklore. This cat is considered to be semi-aquatic, I guess is a way to say it. It does swim very easily. They said specifically like a type of weasel. However, it is not the underwater panther. That's something different. Next up, we have the Mongolian death worm, which everyone knows about now because Dune is out. Dune's fucking boring. That's my opinion. It sucks. Now, Mongolian deathworm is believed to live in the Gobi Desert. It is often depicted as giant with no head, a lot of teeth. It is said to maybe spit venom at you and or get you with an electrical discharge, kind of like an electric eel. Basically, it kills you from far away. It burrows underground, can detect your motion in the sand, and then it'll get you. It doesn't always even have to pop up out of the sand to come get you. Now, this is like everyone's most knowledgeable depiction of it. Giant worm, scary, big, lives under the sand, maybe because of Dune, maybe that's just what the legends kind of morphed into. However, it was not always described that way. It was sometimes described as 2 to 4 feet long, so very small, smaller than my pet snake, as well as only being like sausage length around. And it was probably based on a real snake. This is the Tartar sand boa. It does live in the Gobi Desert. It is not venomous from what I was reading online, so I don't really understand how this turned into the Mongolian deathworm. Sand boas do burrow, so that could make sense for that. Although they typically don't bite humans, a lot of snakes actually typically don't bite humans. It is much less common for a snake to bite you than to run away, play dead, shake their tail, pretty much anything else. They don't typically want to bite you. You are not their prey. Unless it's a Mongolian deathworm, then you might be. Anyways, it's probably based off this. For example, this has been brought to some people who did like very strongly believe in the deathworm, and it was shown to them and they said, yes, that is one. However, this is still the depiction that people use nowadays, not necessarily this little snake, nor one of the original descriptions, which was, again, pretty small, actually. I'm gonna have to pass on this guy. I don't know if you see this image. Gross. Yeah, so we're gonna pass on the Mongolian deathworm. The Jersey Devil. This is one of my favorite cryptid drawings. I just think he's so funny looking with those tiny little hooves. He's like a T-Rex. Like, what are you gonna do with those? What's the fucking point? Jersey Devil is another chimera type creature, so basically just a bunch of other shit morphed together to fit one animal. We've got bat wings, we've got a tail, we've got goat hooves, and kind of like a goat-ish head. If you do not know where this is from, maybe use your critical thinking skills. The Jersey Devil nowadays is kind of more than what it originally was. A lot of people either don't know or don't really care about its origins anymore. This does seem to be a Christian-based cryptid from the research I was doing, based on Mother Leeds' 13th child. So Mother Leeds was a real person, kind of. There was a family, the Leeds family in old America. They were originally Quakers, then they kind of broke off from the Quakers because they were deemed paganists and heretics. The point was that they used some form of astrology to predict what the future would be in their almanacs that they published. This was considered not very good to the other Quakers in the area, therefore they were considered devils. So basically a group of Christians got mad at a different group of Christians, labeled them as devils, and they were, you know, evil spawn. Mother Leeds specifically was the wife of somebody I think named Daniel Leeds, who had 12 children, and or Daniel Leeds had several wives and had, I think, only 9 children. Basically, the Leeds were ostracized because the other Quakers did not like them, which made them mad, which made them publish some stuff, which made the Quakers hate them more, and and so they were considered to be evil. The story is that this evil family had a child, and Mother Lee was so stressed about having so many children, she cursed it and said it was going to be the devil. It was born a normal child and then slowly morphed into this and or this. These two to me are very different depictions. Again, this just looks like a devil with horns. This guy's got no horns, but looks more like an animal. This guy's more fuckable to me. I'd smash him. Maybe him, but probably not. So smash, pass. Next up we have the Snallygaster. The Snallygaster is another one where there's actually not a lot of information on it. It's kind of a nothing cryptid. Like one of those cryptids where it's just kind of a ooh spooky description, but there's no like really heavy lore about it. This is an American cryptid, but it does have German roots. Most likely when German families came over, they brought similar legends with them, and that morphed into this American version. Even though there's not a lot of deep lore about this specific cryptid, it has been used for a long time. Since I think the 18th century, this has been kind of going around scaring people. There's really not that much specific information besides like what it looks like. This kind of like flying creature with either reptile or bird wings, tentacles. Sometimes it's said to have a metallic beak or claws, but mostly it's just this kind of thing. Swoops down, grabs you up with its claws. It doesn't say what it does with you, most likely eats you. He's stealing a barrel, and to be honest, he's kind of too boring. I'd pass him. That's just not that interesting to me. And yes, that does make a difference to me in a smash or pass game. You're not interesting, that's a pass from me. Our next one, the Loch Ness Monster. When I tell you that the Loch Ness Monster was truly my first love. The Loch Ness Monster is truly what got me into anything even remotely like this. Spooky stories, cryptids, researching old mythology, being interested in leaving the country. I heard the story when I was very young. Don't worry about it. The Loch Ness Monster was my first ever introduction into anything remotely like this. I love the Loch Ness Monster so much, you don't understand. I did so many projects on the Loch Ness Monster. I did so many art projects, science projects. I was in like a advanced research, I don't even know what to call it, but I did so many projects strictly on the Loch Ness Monster. They told me to fucking chill on the Loch Ness Monster, find something else to do. I love the Loch Ness Monster so much. There's so many different types of like proof about the Loch Ness Monster. Of course, this very famous picture, which was quickly decided to be a hoax, but there's so many sightings and pictures and videos of what's considered to be the Loch Ness Monster. He's obviously from Scotland because Loch is a Scottish word or a Scottish variant for the word lake. And I found this when I was trying to find pictures for this today, but this made me so excited. The most recent sighting of the Loch Ness Monster was this year on October 3rd. So like a few weeks ago from me recording this was when the last sighting happened, kinda. There has been a lot of imaging being done on Loch Ness, not only just because of Nessie, but also because that's just what people do. And in one of the research vessels recently, there has been some kind of imaging done on the like bottom of Loch Ness anomalies, as well as in April of this year, there was like a true sighting where somebody like sees the back of Nessie or the head of Nessie or something like that. But this recently, I was really excited because when I was really interested in this in school, I think I was doing it in like 2007 to 2009 was when I was really interested in Nessie, and the last sighting had been in 2001. So I was like really putting a damper on me, like thinking like maybe Nessie's dead or not real or whatever. But this year, a few weeks ago, excellent. The love of my life, of course, an absolute smash. Nessie could be a toxic ex that I would keep going back to because I just love her so much. I actually don't know if we use she, her pronouns for Nessie or not. That you would think that's something I would know. My bad. Didn't mean to offend. Bigfoot, everyone knows Bigfoot. Bigfoot, of course, also known as Sasquatch and the Yeti for cold parts of the world. They're all basically the same thing, giant furry monster. Usually kind of ape-like, but still kind of walks and acts like human, like a mix between the two. Usually pretty tall, pretty big, hence the Bigfoot. It is often thought to just be humans, but on a separate evolutionary path. Sometimes they're considered violent, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just kind of walking around enjoying life all by themselves. Sometimes they're like, no, these are extremely violent creatures, they'll tear you limb from limb. Do not encounter one in the wild, you will be dead. However, there seems to be an infinite amount of sightings of Bigfoot between like actually seeing Bigfoot, as well as pictures, as well as hearing him in the woods. Everyone's got a different Bigfoot call for how they think you can summon Bigfoot. Bigfoot's too popular. It's gonna be a pass from me. I don't need you in my life. You got enough going on. El Chupacabra. As somebody who was born and raised in Texas, when I googled pictures for El Chupacabra and this is what I got, I was so fucking confused. See, El Chupacabra actually comes from like 2 different legends based around the world. There are some legends saying it's more alien-like. This is older legends based in like the Puerto Rico area. However, some say it looks more like a dog. This is the sightings that I'm more familiar with. This dog-like look is everything I've heard about El Chupacabra. Basically a dog with little to no fur, big teeth, and a long thin tail that kills your goats and sucks all the bloods out. Blood. That's what El Chupacabra means. Literally means goat sucker. If you're looking at this picture and you're thinking, wow, that's a really clear picture of El Chupacabra, or you're looking at this picture thinking, that's just a dog or a coyote with mange. Yeah, so it's probably just mange. For the sightings of the dog-like creature in Mexico and in Texas especially is where like the biggest stories of El Chupacabra are. The way it's described as well as sightings and pictures, it's just mange. If you're not sure what mange is, long story short, I'm not a zoologist. It's a type of disease where animals lose their fur and it can get to the point where they're hairless. If you don't know what you're looking at, it can actually be quite a ghastly appearance. Similarly, it seems to be thought that some like scary sightings in the woods or in national parks are bears with mange, because bears often will stand up and walk on 2 feet or grab things with 2 feet, and stories of strangely hairless bears or bear-like humans would probably just be bears with mange. Again, if you don't know what mange is, it looks frightening, and a lot of pictures of dead El Chupacabras are probably just dogs with mange. Now, the Kraken. Giant squid that often kills giant whales. It's a deep-sea creature that scares a lot of sailors. It's real? I don't really understand why this is still considered a cryptid to this day. Like, it's just straight up real. Like, it's just real. Like, we have found specimen. We have done plenty of deep sea expeditions that just find giant squids all the time. I guess not all the time, but like often enough that we have several videos and pictures and specimen that have washed up on the beach. Like, giant squid are real. The Kraken is just a giant squid. Now, I guess you can say that it's like a giant squid. It's fucking huge. It tears apart ships and whales. Again, that's just true. We just know that exists. The Kraken is just real, basically. There are just giant squid because we don't know if they have any natural predators. We don't really know if they die of old age. Like, sharks don't really die of old age. And like jellyfish don't die of old age, so who says the squid have to die of old age? Octopuses definitely do though, so you know what? It goes a little bit both ways. We have definitely seen giant squid. They definitely exist. To the point where they were literally on an episode of Octonauts. Like, giant squid are just real. Therefore, the Kraken is real. Like, is it really that hard to believe that a giant squid got so giant that it was scaring the sailors? Like, that totally makes so much fucking sense to me. Also, if you don't know what Octonauts is, you're missing out so much. This is a fucking awesome show, and I only know about it because I have 3 younger brothers, but this is a good show. And of course, it's a giant squid. Smash! These are all the cryptids that I have for you today. It does not mean in the slightest at all that this is an expansive list of cryptids. In fact, I just purposely didn't pick certain cryptids because they didn't sound very interesting to me. There's always the chance that I can do a part 2 now also. There are so many cryptids that it's gonna be impossible to do every cryptid, especially since I'm trying to cover the whole world and not just America. But I do think it would be fun to specifically do the fearsome creatures. Now that I learned a jackalope is technically one of those, I think the jackalope has a really funny and cool story. I did truly want to stay away from like mythology or really old legends. I wanted to do more of like this kind of fun stuff. Also, I didn't want to do anything like supernatural or ghost related, which were some options my boyfriend had brought up, like will-o-wisps or La Llorona. Those are ghost stories. That's not quite the same thing. That's not what I was going for. Anyways, those are my cryptids. Those are the ones I would smash and or pass. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. I hope you all have a great Halloween. I hope you all get into cryptids. Cryptids are fucking awesome, and I love doing research about them and talking about them. This wine is very bad. It tastes like straight up barbecue and smells like ketchup. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.